So, MultiVersus. Seems it's become a bit of a trend on Galaxy Video to come up with ideas for some of our most wanted characters to make it into this game. Now it's my turn because I'm a little sheep. Hey, Adam here, and in all seriousness, I'm really looking forward to this game. I do still have some concerns as someone who's fallen for the free-to-play trap before, and I'm trying not to get my expectations too high like I did with a similar game. But overall I think it looks really solid, including the roster so far. There's a lot of great heroes already featured here, although there's a distinct lack of villains. Well, there's one if you count Harley Quinn, but she's really more of an anti-hero nowadays, so I guess it depends on your definition. Even then, that's just scratching the surface of how many iconic bad guys the WB has under their belt. Max already covered Freddy, there's the Joker, Vilgax, Marvin the Martian, Shao Kahn, preferably Midway era, and of course the classic duo of Aunt Fig and Lick Boot from the Tom and Jerry movie. We can't forget about them.
We've got to have money.
But speaking of duos, there's one pair of villains that have somehow managed to rise up over a lot of other characters on my personal wish list. Maybe they're not my most wanted, but let's just say their inclusion would still be quite a dastardly delight.
Oh, please. My friends call me Dick.
That's right, Dick Dastardly and Muttley have finally managed to come into top 3 of something, being one of my most wanted characters for this game. So from that, you're probably wondering, I'll admit that I don't really have deep reasons for this one. I've always been more of a niche fan of the classic Hanna-Barbera characters, but it wasn't until Jellystone came out that I was able to really appreciate them. And going back to their older incarnations, this terrible team has really stuck out to me. Mainly because I've realized I'm a fan of over-the-top, hammy bad guys that take delight in being so wicked. So much so that I started writing my own series about it on a personal website that you can check out if you want. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. The main reason I want them, though, is just because I think they would be fun in a game like this. These two are really entertaining on their own, but there's a lot of potential for funny interactions with the rest of the cast with just how much of a cartoony, villainy asshole Dick is. You just know that most of the time he's going to be berating his teammates for screwing up, even when it's his own fault, and trying to take all the credit for winning a match.
You'll never learn. Wait a bit, we'll be rich!
But speaking of the match, we should probably get into how they'd fare in one. So, at the time of making this, we don't exactly know the ins and outs of how this game is going to play, other than it's a platform fighter with an emphasis on teamwork. So I am going to be going off of assumptions based on what we've seen and currently know about the game. One thing we do know is that there's a class system, which so far just seems to be an easy way to sum up the character's general gameplay. We have Assassin for characters with some kind of weapon, Bruiser for characters who punch, Mage/Ranged for, I'm guessing, zoners or projectile-heavy characters, Support for, well, support, and Tank for, I'm guessing, characters with a more defensive playstyle. And assuming there aren't any more classes down the line, I imagine Dick would probably fit into the Mage/Ranged category. Dick's not exactly much of a fighter on his own. He'd rather use any sneaky, underhanded tactic he can to sabotage the competition rather than go for any direct confrontation. And I think we could easily translate this into making him a trap-setter character, something akin to Isabelle or Steve in Smash Ultimate, where he's all about trying to control the battlefield and put his opponents in a tough spot. Though Dick would have the caveat of these traps also affecting him if he's not careful, because, you know, his attempts to cheat have a tendency to backfire on him. So, naturally, Dick's moveset would revolve around him setting up these traps, and there's a lot of stuff we could pull from. Perhaps he could set up a direction sign that would flip opponents like Mario's cape. Not gonna lie, it would be pretty funny to see World's Greatest Detective Batman falling for such a simple trick. Or drop down some nails for damage, or an oil slick to make the ground slippery, like he'd do against his fellow wacky racers. You can also utilize a lot of other tools from the Mean Machine, such as bombs, harpoon guns, drills, magnets, and a lot more wacky tools. So from that alone, there's a lot we could pull from to make a moveset for Dick, but of course, you can't have him without Muttley by his side. And there's a couple of easy ways I think we can incorporate him into his moveset. One way could be giving Dick a special move in the same vein as Zim's neutral special in Nick All-Stars, where he calls out Gert and can somewhat control him to blow up on enemies. Except Dick would obviously be sending out Muttley instead, and instead of exploding, he'd just bite opponents, as he's known to do. Muttley could also be used for Dick's recovery special, which I'm guessing characters will have because that's pretty important for a game like this. Just give him a K-Roll or Piranha Plant style recovery, where Muttley lifts him into the air with his propeller tail, provided he gets a medal for it, of course. But now we have to get into what's defining this game from other Smash-likes, the teamwork aspect with every character having at least one move to help out their partner. And knowing Dick Dastardly, this kind of team spirit would be very out of character for him. But if we want him in this game, we're going to have to take some liberties. So what could Dick possibly do to help his teammates? Well, take advantage of what he's most well known for, being a no-good, dirty, rotten cheater. Now, this idea is not actually based on anything in particular, but I thought it was just perfect for Dastardly. He is known to occasionally break the fourth wall and address the narrator, and while I don't want Dick to become the next Deadpool, I think we could use this more minor aspect of his character for this team play mechanic, by having him utilize cheat codes. Yes, like actual video game cheat codes. Dick could basically just pull out some kind of manual and look them up, and then apply them to either himself or his teammates, to give them a random temporary buff. Or, when not in team play, he could also use this on his opponents to debuff them somehow. Again, this isn't really based on anything, and I would understand if they wanted to go with something a bit more true to his character, but again, I just thought the idea was too perfect for Dastardly to pass up. From what we've seen, this game seems to really be flexing its voice actors. And since they made a big deal about it, we might as well cover that here too. Muttley has previously been voiced by Billy West in his most recent appearances, though I don't think a VA choice matters as much for him as it would Dastardly. I mean, all you really have to do for him is grumble and snicker. It's not exactly a complicated role. Dick, though, had a couple of options. Obviously, his most iconic voice is his portrayal by Paul Winchell, who died back in 2005. So he's out. And Scoob, he was voiced by Jason Isaacs, and while Dick was the best part of Scoob, I'm going to pass on this too, mainly because the rest of Scoob is honestly not worth remembering.
My name's not Red!
And then there's the 2017 Wacky Races reboot, where he was voiced by Peter Woodward. And while I do like this version of Dick, I decided not to go for him here for reasons I'll explain in the next section. So that leaves two other options. There was one commercial for Boomerang where Dick was voiced by Jeff Bergman, and I think he does an alright job as him. His voice for Dick is more similar to his original portrayal by Winchell.
Go to CartoonNetwork.com and request Boomerang today. Or else.
And as a bonus, Jeff has also been voicing a lot of other classic WB-owned characters in recent productions, like Fred Flintstone, Yogi Bear, and a couple other Looney Tunes characters. So assuming any of those characters also make it into the game, Jeff could be who they bring in for them, and Dick as well, in order to bring the cost down of multiple voice actors. But even if that is the case, the second option is the one I'm more hoping they go with. The man, myth, and legend himself, Jim Cummings. Jim's voiced Dastardly 3 times before, once in a PlayStation video game, once in a shovelware Wii game, and once in a pilot for Wacky Races Forever that never went anywhere. So he's already got some experience voicing the character, and he did a pretty good job with him.
No, Muttley, we can't win fairly. We are villains, ergo we have to cheat. Drat! And double drat!
And honestly, I think he'd be perfect to play someone like Dick Dastardly in the future. Mainly because this dude is practically famous for giving voices to a lot of hammy, cartoony villains already. Pete, Lord Boxman, Negaduck, Fuzzy Lumpkins, and of course the most vile villain of all, Winnie the Pooh. Of the two, I would definitely prefer Jim. Overall, I just prefer his voice for Dick, as well as his voice for other similar characters. And as for what he'd say specifically, well, let's just keep him true to his namesake and make him be a total dick to others, whether they're teammates or opponents. I could just see him having a lot of fun interactions, like asking Jake if he'd want to replace Muttley, getting one-upped by Bugs Bunny like he's done to a lot of similar villains, or just any of the more serious characters in the game just being put off by how much of a card-carrying villain he is. Maybe we could even have some other characters calling him out for cheating instead of focusing on winning the match. That would be pretty good, and probably be totally in line with how others would interact with each other in this game. Deciding what Double D would have for alternate skins, on the other hand, was pretty easy. His default skin would obviously be his outfit from the original Wacky Races, with one of his regular skins being how he looked in the Dastardly and Muttley and Their Flying Machine show, complete with Muttley getting his own aviator cap. Now, why did I say regular skins? Well, they confirmed that some character skins will come with unique voice lines. Whether this means all new voice actors, or the same voice actors with different lines, or it just depends on the skin, we don't know. But other free-to-play multiplayer games tend to get separate voice actors for special character skins, so I don't think that would be out of the question here. And remember how I said I liked Peter Woodward's Dick Dastardly but wanted to save him for later? Well, this is later. See, the 2017 Wacky Races is weird. because it doesn't actually focus on racing, more so comedy focusing on the characters, and so much meta humor it puts Family Guy to shame.
Okay, well, that was a waste of time.
Those chase numbers never really advance the plot, do they?
It's almost like they're there just to use up the time because the writers can't think of anything funny for us to say.
Yep.
But there's also an episode where it's revealed that Dick Dastardly in this show is actually not the same character as the classic version, as they made the pigeon chasing Dick his disgruntled grandpa. So since 2017 Dastardly is technically a different character, I figured he would work best as one of these special skins with his own voice. Obviously and ideally provided by Woodward. The reboot's a pretty niche show, but I know it does actually have its fans, so I think including this in addition to the classic version of Dick would give us the best of both worlds. But that's not my only idea for a special skin we could give them. So for my final idea for Dastardly and Muttley, let's give them another special skin that turns them into the Dread Baron and Mumbly from Scooby's Laugh Olympics. Just for a neat callback since I don't see that show being brought up all too often. Now, Winchell didn't voice Dread Baron back then, but honestly I don't think we'd need to spring for a different voice actor on this one. Mainly because, well, they're basically the exact same characters as Dastardly and Muttley, to the point where I don't know why they didn't just use Dastardly and Muttley for this show. But hey, it's a pretty easy choice for an Echo Fighter, so I don't see any good reason to not include...
Wow!
Oh.
Why don't you have a seat?
And this is a very last minute recording because I realized I forgot to talk about a potential stage. Not that Wacky Races really has a lot to pull from in terms of iconic locations or anything, but I think just having like a general Wacky Races themed stage could work here. Just have it take place on a racetrack with the other racers making cameos in the background, or maybe just have it take place on the racers' vehicles themselves. That probably would not make for a very competitive stage, but you know what, we gotta have some fun here. So let's throw in some stages that are just there to be wacky. So with all that said and done, I can safely say that Dick Dastardly and Muttley are among some of my most wanted characters for this game. And if they don't make it in, then that's gonna be worth a Drat, a double Drat, and maybe even a triple Drat.
So who wanted to win this old race anyway?
I did! I wanted to win this race! I never get to win a
Stop the pigeon! 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 Stop the pigeon!